Marianne answered the door when Connell rings the bell. She's still wearing her school uniform, but she's taken off the sweater, so it's just a blouse and skirt, and she has no shoes on, only tights. "Oh hey," he says. "Come on in." Those are the opening lines from Normal People, which is the second novel by author Sally Rooney. This book is so great that not only is it a future literary classic, but I think it's better than Romeo and Juliet and any other literature of that ilk. In 100 years' time, this book will overtake it as the go-to romantic reference. But before I explain why and delve into the book, please like and subscribe, and please comment what pieces of literature do you think can claim the top spot in the romance sphere. Let me know. For the scores, Normal People gets the following: plot 90, characters 100, emotional impact 100, pacing 97, writing style 98, themes 100, uniqueness 94, book cover 88, overall score 96.6. I should start summarizing books before I talk about it, but I really enjoy just narrating the mess that is in my head. But I'll start summarizing from now on. Normal People follows the lives of Marianne and Connell, two teenagers from a small town in Ireland. Marianne is from a rich family but is very much an outcast, both at home and in school, while Connell is popular and well liked but from a working class background. His single mother is the cleaner for Marianne's family, which adds another dynamic to things. The two teenagers form a semi-secretive bond, and their on and off again relationship, mostly on friendship, is explored from secondary school to university. Connell fears the social repercussions of his relationship due to him needing social validation, which causes him to make a lot of mistakes. The first one being that he wants to keep their relationship secret. And even though Marianne willingly agrees, and she's happy to do so as she has no friends in school, it all goes to shit anyway. As they transition into university, the power dynamics shift. Marianne becomes more socially confident and involved, while Connell struggles with insecurity and a sense of displacement. Yet their connection remains constant, providing both solace and conflict. Despite periods of separation and misunderstandings, they repeatedly find their way back to each other, because their connection is just continuous no matter what. Boom, summary done. Let's get into my thoughts on the story. Part 1, Class and Shame. First of all, I really like Rooney's writing style. I know it can be hit or miss for some, but I really like it. The way we go into the characters' thoughts and look back in time is just wonderfully done. Rooney has a great ability to draw us back into the present and then re-engage with current situations Connor and Marianne may be facing, even though we see them looking back in time about a memory that may or may not be related to said present situation. Class struggle is a significant theme throughout the book, and we grow with the protagonists as they directly and indirectly raise their class consciousness. At the start of the book, Connell's internal dialogue about Marianne is quite interesting. He wants to impress her, but he doesn't particularly enjoy her company. But at this point, which is literally like, I guess, the first 3 pages, it is unclear if he has even tried to be in a company. Besides gossip, the main concern for Connell is how their class imbalance could embarrass him at school. Even though everyone knows his mum is Marianne's family cleaner, but as is the thing with Connell, his social anxiety is dialed up. Connell in this case is looking too deep into it, but at the same time, if Marianne was a different kind of person, it could end horribly, and that's what Connell's thinking about. In the sense that if she wanted to parade and therefore demean Connell and his mum, she could. It would be a horrible look for her as well, but you never know how kids react to these kind of situations. A common emotion that tends to accompany class is shame, something that Connell has in spades. For example, there's a scene in the beginning of the book where Connell invites Marianne over, but he keeps looking over her shoulder just to make sure no one has seen her. Connell is really going through it. It's weird how he thinks ordinary working class people might frown upon his choice of company. However, several pages later, he hasn't applied the same logic in the view of the upper class, in this case Marianne's mum, not until Lorraine and him are talking about things. Quote, "The idea that Marianne's family considered themselves superior to himself and Lorraine, too good to be associated with, had never occurred to him before. He found, to his surprise, the idea made him furious." Connell's lack of awareness on multiple levels is portrayed brilliantly by Rooney, because in my view, it perfectly shows how people can be totally ignorant to their own double standards and their own blind spots. Connell, due to his popularity in school and his desire to be liked, had reinforced his superior position in his cohort's social hierarchy. He's too good to be seen in school with Marianne, hence why their relationship is a secret. Later on in the books, during university, Connell gets to reap a few benefits from being associated with middle and upper class students. Connell, now being rich adjacent, was able to get a job, and love that he knows is because the rich look after one another. However, we never get these kind of thoughts in Marianne's mind. Quote, they had never talked about, for example, about the fact that her mother paid his mother money to scrub their floors and hang their laundry, or about the fact that this money circulated indirectly to Connell, who spent it as often as not on Marianne. She bought him things all the time: dinner, theatre tickets, things she would pay for and then instantly permanently forget about. Those last four words are really what's happening, hence why we don't see Marianne have thoughts about Connell's class status, or her own for that matter. It's not that Marianne is a horrible person, in fact she is quite kind, but she's so oblivious in this realm because it doesn't affect her. Marianne, coming from a wealthy background, is largely insulated from the financial anxieties that plague Connell. She drifts through university life without the same level of concern about her future, a privilege afforded by her family's wealth. This lack of worry is exemplified in one of the rare occasions that she has with her mother about her future, where Marianne's uncertainty about what she wants to do after university is met with little urgency. Yet I don't think it came up because they don't keep score about the things that they do for each other and the things that they buy for each other. Part 2. Abuse. Rooney touches on some heavy themes in this book, and I appreciate her sensitivity around it. Her writing style allowed the story to be nuanced yet understanding. One of the subtler forms of abuse that we see is social abuse. After reading about how Connell's previous sexual encounters were talked about, I get why he's so private. The girls he was with before love to talk about everything that transpired. That is not an ideal situation to be when you struggle with your identity and question your own thoughts like Connell does. This creates quite a paradox because even though Connell has a legitimate reason for his privacy, when it involves a significant other, in this case Marianne, that can come across as a form of abuse. I forgot about this detail in a reread mainly because it's not in the TV show. But Rachel and the rest know about Connell and Marianne, potentially for ever since they started. They may have even had suspicions before Connell even had that first conversation in Marianne's home. Rachel even aggressively asks Connell if he wants to kiss Marianne in front of everyone. This is after they've been in the club and one of the older boys gropes Marianne. Connell for once actually talks to her in front of everyone and asks her if she's alright. However, something always tells me that that type of event would have been different if everyone in town knew Marianne and Connell were together. Besides the blatant sexual assault, social abuse may not be the correct phrase, but when I look back on how Marianne is ostracized, the shoe seems to fit. Another thing I have to commend Rooney for is her realistic portrayal of female paedophilia and sexual assault towards men and boys. Miss Neary is a teacher in the book who, putting it bluntly, wants Connell, and he wants no parts of it. Quote, he can't tell people about the way she acts because they'll think he's trying to brag about it. In class he feels too embarrassed and annoyed to concentrate on the lesson. He just sits there staring at the textbook until the bar graphs start to blur. Unlike a lot of people who find themselves in such a situation, Connell can at least tell Marianne. So from the beginning of the book, there's a genuine vulnerability that is shared between the two, and there's a trust there. However, things are left ambiguous a few years later, when on a drunken night, Miss Neary has Connell in her home, then he finds himself at home. He doesn't know what in God's name happened, but he does know that Miss Neary tried to initiate sex and wasn't really taking his objections seriously. Rooney adds to the complexity of normal people with the abuse Marianne suffers. Class, shame and even humility won't save one from abuse, and Marianne is a prime example. There's so many instances of Marianne just being walked all over, from her mum to her brother to Connell to Jamie to Lucas to Peggy to herself, all with varying degrees of hurt. I want to touch on how it all accumulates to a scene towards the end of the book. I'm talking about the scene with Connell's evaluation of Marianne after she wanted him to hit her during sex. Quote, there's something frightening about her, some huge emptiness in the pit of her being. She's missing some primal instinct, self-defense or self-preservation. You lean in expecting resistance and everything just falls away in front of you. Amongst many things, Marianne is a masochist. Marianne's reaction to Connor not wanting to do this to her is heartbreaking. She believes she's broken and my god, Rooney writes this all brilliantly. We were just about to have an epic reunion of a love scene too, but that got taken away. Let me put on my therapist hat for 2 seconds. In her relationships with other men such as Jamie and Lucas, Marianne's masochistic tendencies become more pronounced. Rooney portrays this escalation through Marianne's thoughts and dialogue. At times when she's with Jamie, it's almost like a game for her, but it's something more sinister. She gravitates towards partners who fulfill her desire for degradation, mirroring her own belief that she deserves to be treated poorly. Marianne's low self-esteem and belief that she's unworthy of love and kindness drive her to accept and even seek out relationships where she's treated poorly. Her masochistic behavior allows her to exert a form of control over her pain and suffering, I think. By choosing to be in relationships where she's mistreated, it's like, I don't know, she's reclaiming a sense of agency, even though it's through negative means. Part 3. Angst, Anguish, and Accountability. Teenage angst is another emotion shown in spades in this book. For example, Connell has such torment about his and Marianne's secret. Rooney portrays this extremely well. She shows how this torment really eats away at Connell. Quote, "I was hoping for something a bit more romantic." He didn't reply to that because he felt as though he had just jumped off a high precipice and fallen to his death. He was glad he was dead. He never wanted to be alive again. Connell's mind held him even more accountable. Connell figured out a little bit about himself after his Marianne debacle. He was depressed, he was drinking and having pointless sex, none of which helped, of course. I'm guessing ignorance is bliss. This is what I thought when Rooney wrote that drunk conversation between Eric and Connell, where he revealed that everyone knew about Marianne and Connell. Quote, "This was probably the most horrifying thing Eric could have said to him. Not because it ended his life, but because it didn't. He knew then that the secret for which he had sacrificed his own happiness and the happiness of another person had been trivial all along and worthless. He and Marianne could have walked down the school corridors hand in hand, and with what consequence? Nothing really. No one cared. God." The house of cards came tumbling down with this scene. Connell realized that it was all in his head. His friends, for all their flaws, weren't portrayed as being that bad really. They were just kids. But then again, so was Connell, and he wanted to protect his status at all costs. Part 4. Love. It's kind of crazy that I'm mentioning this theme last, even though many see this as a romantic book. My point is that it's a lot more than just that. Regardless, there are numerous moments where we get to see love on many levels. My favourite being the classic line from this book. Quote, "Being alone with her is like opening a door away from normal life and then closing it behind him." These kinds of sentences are really what I appreciate about Rooney's writing. The simplicity and poetry of it is quite charming. Speaking of charming, I love Connell and Marianne's reunion during a house party when they're both at Trinity. Quote, "Her gaze unsettles him like it used to, like looking into a mirror, seeing something that has no secrets from you. If I recall correctly, and maybe it's because I'm a guy, but it seems as though we have had more of these moments from Connell's perspective." Lastly, upon this reread, I totally forgot about Helen, who I'm going to touch on briefly. It's strange how Connell's love for her is how we find out about her, after she's initially revealed when we see glimpses into their relationship. Connell understands that it is a perfectly normal one, and he likes it. He likes her and what she represents. I think Rooney modelled up her introduction, unless I have my time hat the wrong way around. I will say I definitely prefer book Helen to TV Helen, but out of the external relationships Connell and Marianne have, Connell and Helen seem the most normal. If you somehow missed it, I think this is an excellent book, and I highly recommend it. There is a reason Sally Rooney is so popular, and Normal People is the best example of why. The emotions are so real, and the themes explored are done in such a majestic way. This is a future classic and one of my favourite stories ever. I hardly read romance books, but I'm very glad I read this, and I'm on the Rooney bandwagon for sure. Anyway, please let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.